Namaskar and welcome to the first of its kind online Kashmir Festival, brought to you by Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora in collaboration with I Am Buddha. Now, we have a very interesting topic today, which is everyone's favorite, and that is food, and that too Kashmiri food. So, today's episode is called Culinary Curios, but it's basically about Kashmiri Pandit cuisine. And I am delighted to welcome a very esteemed panel who have been trailblazers in their own right in various parts of the world. So, welcome all, and I am your host for today. My name is Shafalika Bhankotwal. So, first of all, welcome to Nalini Moti Sadhuji. Now, Nalini ji needs no introduction. She is a celebrity chef. We all know her of the famous Matamal restaurant in Gurgaon, NCR region, and also now in Doha in Qatar. So, excellent. She is also a chief flavor master at the blazing online spices marketplace called Guns and Mohol. Wow. She is also, everyone knows, she has spread Kashmiri cuisine far and wide, not just in India, but also abroad. So, welcome, Nalini ji. Then we have Bhavna Chalu Pratap. Welcome, Bhavna. So, Bhavna is the founder and chef de cuisine at Nena Butter. Now, that is my favorite name. And she operates from San Jose in United States. So she's a full-time caterer and she specializes in authentic Kashmiri Pandit food. And Bhavna, like us all, she takes great pleasure in preserving our culinary heritage and ensuring that our Kashmiri cuisine gets the recognition it deserves internationally. So, welcome, Bhavna. And last but not the least, we have a MasterChef Australia, that is Sandeep Pandit. Welcome, Sandeep. Now, Sandeep was born, like us all, I guess, in Kashmir. And then, following the forced exodus in 1990, he went to South India. And Sandeep says he's learned his cooking from his mother and grandmothers, I guess, like us all. And then he moved in 2016 to Australia. And that's where his journey as MasterChef Australia started. We will talk about that a bit more in detail. But Sandeep, like all my other panelists, he has been trying to popularize Kashmiri Pandit cuisine in Australia and across the world through his blogs and Instagram. So, welcome, Sandeep. So, let's get this started. And like I said, this is my favorite topic, food. And I believe it is the favorite topic of all Kashmiris because our lives are in a way intertwined with food ever since we are born, all the rituals and the traditions. So let's talk about Kashmiri Pandit food with you all first. So I was reading about Kashmiri Pandit food, and it's very interesting that it has a very ancient history right from the days of Ayurveda and Charaka. So the basis of our food, very interestingly, is thousands and thousands of years old, and of course, over the years, it has changed. We have, lots of other people lived in Kashmir, came from other lands, and we kind of learned from them, and they learned from us. So there have been slight variations, but the basis of food still remains Ayurveda and its holisticness. As Ayurveda, it looks after not just mind but body, soul, everything. So food is kind of, that's why I think in Kashmir food is really important. And so I start with you, Sandeep. And, like I said, Ayurveda is where it started from. And there are certain unique characteristics of Kashmiri food. We use a lot of saffron, we use dry fruits, we use even fruits like pomegranate, etc., apricots in our food. And so that's, I think, slightly unique in our cuisine. And would you want to talk a bit about that and how our food history has evolved over the years?
Thank you, Shafali. That was very kind of you to introduce me like that. Namaskar, Sarni. I think the love that Kashmiri Pandits have for food is in a way showcased by the very famous phrase that we have: "To know someone is to you." When we say "Yishme harfas gawah mindish sharik," that means this person is, he is someone who knows every single word of mine and is a part of every single bite that I take. Such is the importance of food in our culture that from the written word to the first bite of food that we take. That is the importance. So two things that are important to Kashmiris, as my parents would agree, is education and food. And I think none of us has ever been able to be away from it. Um, you raised a wonderful point that the tenets of Kashmiri food always been in Ayurveda, and apart from what you just now said, that another very important aspect of Kashmiri Pandit cuisine is actually minimal to absolute use of onions and garlic in our traditional food. And if you that again is one of the very core concepts of Ayurveda. Not that Ayurveda has ever condemned the use of onions and garlics in food per se, but onions were considered tamasic and garlic was always considered rats. These are the curative rather than healing properties of this kind of food, which is better as a medicine. That's why in a lot of Ayurvedic medicinal, you'll see use of onions in a medicinal form in Ayurveda rather than being prescribed for food. The question then comes that, why is it that it is so radically different for rest of India than Kashmir? One has to understand that in terms of climatic conditions, Kashmir is very unique from the rest of India. It's one of the very few places in India where you actually have four seasons. Unless you go to Himachal or places in Northeast where you have such a weather. But Kashmir is very unique, which is more accustomed to more Central Asian sort of climates rather than the rest of India, which is predominantly, a more temperate sort of a zone, not different as as the rest of the nation is. Sorry, I'm stuttering a bit. Just like there are so many thoughts that come to my mind when you say Ayurvedic food and Kashmiri Pandit cuisine. The other important tenet to our fundamental philosophy in food is also rooted in the Ayurvedic philosophy of food, which is that Ayurveda talks about five elements that constitute human body: air, fire, water, space, and earth. And the combination of all these five elements in create three doshas. Don't go by the literal meaning of the word dosha. It does not mean it doesn't mean that it's a problem. Dosha is the way in which these elements interact. And there are three main doshas that Ayurveda talks about, which is Pitta, uh, which is the way fire and water interact inside the body. Kapha, which is for air and space. Uh, uh, Vata is for air and space, and Kapha is for. And if you look at it fundamentally, human body is made out of these five elements. So Ayurveda says that the balance of these three doshas in a human body determine how healthy or how not so healthy the body is. I won't go too deep in it, but what I would want to say is that philosophy of having a balanced thali or a balanced thal is what Kashmiri Pandit cuisine has always been about. Again, Ayurveda does not really condemn the eating of meat, but it limits it. And that is why a lot of people who get surprised as to that you are Brahmins and why do you eat it. There are historical references as to why we eat. No, there are stories that we tell each other. But practically, if you see Ayurvedic food, it does not talk about not eating meat. It talks about limiting it. And if I may say in Kashmiri, agar to batakhan wichu, soon was asan kam, which means if you look at the Kashmiri Pandit cuisine, meat was only a part of the rest of the thali. You will never imagine Kashmiri Pandit meal comprising only of meat and a carb. Something that I showcased in MasterChef Australia as well. I mean, I had tahar, which was the carb. I had rogan josh, which was the meat, but I also had hark and mutchidi. They are the cooling elements, and this is how Kashmiri Pandit food has always spoken about balance and a thali, kosher thal, or kosher Pandit sal, which means a feast, is all about
Yes.
balance again, rooted in Ayurveda and comes from there.
Excellent. That is so interesting to hear for our audience as well. So coming on to Nalini ji now. Nalini ji, it is said that Kashmiri cuisine is more than just a food. It is in fact a celebration of life itself. So it's so deep rooted in our tradition and cultures, and you of course have been at the forefront of popularizing it and also popularizing our Kashmiri traditions, our festivals, and our religious rituals. So the question for you is, could you take us a bit through the history of Kashmiri Pandit food in our various religious festivals, predominantly Herath, which is Shivratri, which is our most important religious festival, then even Pan, and how we cook, make rot around Pan, which again you have popularized. So, can you take us a bit through our customs and traditions in relations to food?
Thank you, Shubhalika. It's an honor for me to be part of this diaspora. See, food is for Kashmiris. Food is way of life. You wake up with the thought of what to eat now and what to eat. What is the next meal? The life revolves around food only, and I think practically we celebrate every day. We have so many festivals starting from Navre and then Shivratri and then Autumn. Every month there is Ashtami. So practically the life is everyday celebration. Birthdays we celebrate, Marna, Jina, Eid, this is all celebration. And wo kya hai? This all revolves around food only. So let's start with New Year. We make Tahar, Navre, Tahar, and then in Kashmir they used to make sarwan and aloo, like liver and potato, and then some moved on to vegetarian food like this. Then there's the Shivratri. Is it a long festival? Shivratri, all the festivals are connected with deity. We celebrate deity, and this is what Kashmiri food is all about. There is so much of variation in that food. Everything is offered to God first, and then it is celebrated. Like, say, for example, Pan. Every year we look forward to that. We make that meaty roti, Pan rot, and then there are other kinds of rots which we give in to our daughters when we get them married. So that is another thing. Then comes Gad. So we kind of celebrate winter, spring, summer. Everything has a ritual, has a food connected to it. And then comes Khitmawas. Ask me anything. When don't we celebrate? I've seen my mother, my grandmother, my mother-in-law all the time in the kitchen. We would never plan what to wear on that day, but it was all about what to cook. How our Kashmiris live with celebrations all the time. We are celebrating every day, mostly with food, not getting ready, not getting dressed up. We are whole day in the kitchen cooking. That is our way of life. That is our rich culture, which was unknown to world. You know, we are actually culturally, food wise, very, very rich. That's how I put my. Now, if we need to explain the festivals, it will take us ages to explain all those festivals.
Yes, yes.
But this is what our life is all about. Yeah.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, you have described our way of life and how it's. I totally agree with you. It's all centered around food, and we don't worry about dressing up or doing anything else. It starts with food the day and it ends with food. And as kids, we used to look forward to the food. I remember my childhood. For Harith, the highlight of Harith was the food. It's only as you grow up then you understand the rituals and the puja and the customs. But it starts with food. And so coming on to Bhavna, Bhavna, you have of course taken it one notch higher. You've taken our traditions and cuisine to United States of America. And so someone said in USA, Bhavna sends Rot and Manja Anchar by FedEx from the east to the west coast. So before we talk about your contribution to food, as Nalini ji said, and Sandeep before her, our spices are very unique, and there is almost a science to it. So it's not just an art, but it's a science as well. And there has to be a correct combination of different spices, and only then it gives the flavor to the food. But not only that, in cases of vegetables like hak, there are no spices used, and turnips we try and cook them without spices. So it's a unique blend of the arts and the sciences. So do you want to talk a bit about the different kinds of spices we use, and what is the importance of having a good combination, and how they complement each other?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I am pretty privileged and absolutely privileged to be in this panel, and such an amazing initiative. And kudos to all you guys for that. Moving on to Kashmiri food, we live to eat, I think. Kashmiris, they live to eat. And they are very proud of their cuisine. Each and every person in a Kashmiri household is an amazing chef. So moving on to the spices that we use in our cuisine, varied spices, very flavorful, medicinal value, and flavor again, like I mentioned again. So the primary spices that we use is the fennel seed powder. That has the digestive capabilities. It's an antiseptic in itself and anti-inflammatory. So with most of the meat dishes that we use is depending on the weather again. So in winters, we eat a lot of red spicy food to generate more warmth with the non-veg. And whenever we use red chili powder, it is very well complemented with the black cardamom powder. It kind of enhances the taste in the red chili powder. Again, the black cardamom powder is an digestive in itself. We have a abundant use of hing in our asafoetida in our food. That's again an antiseptic and a digestive again. So even the vegetables that we cook, when there are greens which are nutritious in itself, we don't put any more spices in that. Like you mentioned hak, that in US we call it collard greens, or manjhak that we call it kohlrabi. They are very nutritious in themselves, flavorful abundantly. So just to give it a little more kick, we add hing to it, and sometimes the masala tikki that we call wur. And we are very proud of that wur here.
Yes, yes.
So it enhances the flavor just a little bit, not killing the flavor of the ingredient itself. There are some dishes that we use haldi, as in turmeric, in that. Primarily when we make paneer. To bring out the creamy texture of it, we use the fennel seed powder and turmeric. And to make it more creamier, we add milk to it. I mean, I don't think people, outside of the Kashmiri cuisine were aware that you can add milk with turmeric and fennel seed powder. It gives a very mild yet flavorful flavor to the dish. Also, the other combination that we use is with the meat or with the lotus root that we call nadru is fennel seed powder, the main ingredient, and dahi. So with the dahi, again, the creamy texture comes out, and it's a little tangy and gives the dish like lotus root a very beautiful flavor. We use saffron in a lot of dishes. So there's this very famous yet very unique sweet dish that we have. We call it Madhur Pulao, as in sweet rice. So that is primarily made on ghee, sugar, dry fruits, and saffron. and yet when you have it, it kind of bursts in your mouth and very flavorful at that.
Absolutely. So that's why I say it looks like some kind of lot of thinking has gone into the Kashmiri Pandit food, and kudos to our ancestors, whoever started this, and we of course are carrying the tradition forward. Mustard oil, for instance, it gives so much warmth to the body, and a different kind of taste to the food, and we try and use it in most of the cuisine, especially in Haak. It just brings out that special flavor in Haak and kohlrabi. So I mean, that's a very interesting discussion. And you guys, you have taken it to a different level altogether, because I remember in 1990, when we left Kashmir, after spending part of our lives there. And then at that time, it was almost inconceivable that we would have a Kashmiri Pandit restaurant in the heart of Delhi NCR. And I was amazed when I heard of Matamal. So coming to you, Nalini ji. Now, Matamal, for those who don't know, the Hindi word is Nanka or Nanihal. It's your mother's Maika, and for all children, Matamal is the place to be, because you get pampered, you get overfed, and it's fun. And I think that's why your restaurant, I believe, is called Matamal. And having been to your restaurant, Nalini ji, it does feel like Matamal. You are relaxed, and you've got a special host looking after you. So Nalini ji, starting from the 1990s, when this idea, I guess, came to you, and what an idea it was, and where it has taken us. So do you want to take us a bit through your journey? What motivated you to start this venture in the heart of Delhi? And now, of course, it has spread to India and abroad. But you were really the pioneer of Kashmiri Pandit cuisine in India at that point.
Yes. Thank you so much, Shefali. When after 1990, maybe after 10, 12 years, I always enjoyed cooking. That was the first A point, always passionate about cooking. Second was, whenever somebody would talk about Kashmir, and then they would talk about Wazwan. And it would somewhere kill me. Our cuisine, nobody knows about it. And I've seen my mothers, I've seen everybody cooking in the kitchen all the time. And I wanted people to know that. But, to come out of your home and, introduce your food outside your home, it was a big step. But I think trusting my cuisine, that was one big thing. I just wanted it to be there, and I was sure that it will go up. People will enjoy it. So the second thing was how you will make people aware of your cuisine. If you're going to go out, when somebody has not heard about any cuisine which is without onion, ginger, garlic, that this is something totally different. So with that mindset, I really wanted to do something for my soul, for my Kashmiri Pandit. Wanted to make it famous because we had already lost our Kashmir. We had lost the ground, basically. Now, anything about culture, anything about spices, anything about food, I wanted people to know about it. So I think that was the beginning of creating of that idea that let's start with Matamal. But behind that Matamal, there was not only commercial scene. This was the place has to be, the people, they have been missing that warmth after they left Kashmir. We wanted it to be a place where they will come and have the feeling of Matamal, that warmth, not only food, what you say in Kashmiri, rest I take care of everything. That relaxation, people who had lost their Matamal, किसी का Matamal कहीं है, this was kind of, this should have been a hub where everybody would come and enjoy the meal. Enjoy
Yes.
the meal and make it famous as much as possible. Tell them what our culture is all about, what our food is all about. So we were kind of that is how the journey started. But of course, the passion was always there. I knew I had a strong hold on cooking. That got Matamal together, I think, in the beginning.
Yes. And now,
Then
of
the
course,
challenges.
and you have you talk about Kans and Muhul. Do you want to tell us what that means, Kans and Muhul?
Yes.
Yes.
Cousin Mool, then we wanted people, in our family, I just have to open my mouth, and my husband, he supports me with whatever Kashmiri, he's so connected with Kashmir, like Waghu, Pulohor, Myas, those things which I've seen in our childhood, we make it possible to bring it here. Then the other part was sourcing. People would ask us, where can we get this masala? Then I started making masala tikki. Then where can we get achar? So the availability of those things, which we only could get in Kashmir, we wanted that to be here. So that's how Kanjan Mul came, and it is our online spice
Yes.
spice
Yes.
market, you can
Yeah,
say.
but what does
So
Kans and Muhul actually mean?
Steel and pestle and mortar, but the big one which everybody used to have in their home.
Yes.
इतने बड़े बड़े वो कांस and mool is that जिससे मसाला कूटते थे. And every
Okay.
Kashmiri home had that in their courtyard. If you remember, I think long
Yes.
time back, I
Yes.
think in old homes, the Kanjan
Yes.
Mool used to be there. So this is again an extension of Mata Mal and again an extension of our home, how spices were done there. Nothing was machine made there. Everything had to be done manually. So
Yes. Yes.
that is the idea of Kanjan Mool. Then came
Excellent.
people, we had lost our Samawar and our things, beach, all those collective memories we bought here.
Yes.
And then at the okay, you go ahead. You ask
No,
me.
I was just saying about memories. So it is really about memories and then somehow carrying it forward. Because in our case, obviously, it's been a bit difficult, not a bit difficult, but very difficult because we've lost our roots. And for our children, they do not have the luxury of having the same childhood as we did, perhaps in Kashmir. And the things you talked about, I think they might not even have heard of it. The current generation. So thank you. And Nalini ji, it's your restaurant is not just a restaurant, it's a kind of a museum. Having been there. So whatever you want to know about Kashmir and Kashmiri food, you have to look around, and there it is, like a one-stop shop. And so Bhavna, you have taken it internationally, and as some of you might know, I do it in London as well. We have a catering business, like Bhavna, and it's very challenging. I must say it is very challenging. I've seen to source all the food, abroad is difficult. And also, Nalini ji, obviously she found it difficult in India initially, because the taste of her food and the spices we use, it takes a bit of time to get used to. And then when you take it abroad, our red mirch, it looks very fairy. And then to have, people wanting to eat food made in that color, although it's very mild in taste, but it looks, the way it looks, people find it a bit difficult. So how have you, have you had any challenges like this abroad, and how do you overcome it? How have you managed to spread our cuisine abroad? Do you want to talk a bit about that? Thank you, Bhavna.
Sure. Starting Nineveh was like a dream come true. And once we started, the challenges were not many though, but yes. First was the ingredients, which actually became very easy because we find very good ingredients here and all the time throughout the year, which we don't even find in India at times. So once the ingredients were done, then the meat cutting was a major problem.
Yes.
Because we Kashmiris are so particular about cuts of our meats for different dishes. I used to get stressed out standing in front of a butcher and kind of shouting my head out, no, not like this, like that. And so eventually I did get my own meat saw and I do it myself now. But
Excellent.
at that time, it used to be a stressful part. To train a guy to cut it the way, even then, even when you tell him how to cut it, he still doesn't get it. But eventually, I had to do it myself. The spices are not of the same, though we get everything in US, but it's not the same quality that I would like to have it. So I source it from India, from Jammu itself. The other thing was, when I started, I was very sure that I am not going to get Kashmiri clientele, like I said earlier, because we all are very proud cooks at home. But the response was overwhelming. It was just surprisingly overwhelming. The other thing was to take it to non-Kashmiris after that. Because non-Kashmiris, like we have been talking about it, they have no clue how Kashmiri food is. When you talk about Kashmiri food, correct, Wazwan. So the goal was to take this Kashmiri Pandit cuisine and highlight it in the whole world. Telling them about no onions and no garlic used to come as a shock after they eat it. Then they say, "Acha, I see thick gravy kaise ho gayi?" I said, "I'll tell you, you eat it first." They started loving it. Not only the non-Kashmiris, Indians, I have white clientele as well. I have Russian clientele as well.
Absolutely.
So it's so flavorful for them. And after that, we are doing weddings here now. We are doing divgons and we are doing Mehndi Raat and mekhals. So slowly it kind of, with the word of mouth, it just caught on.
Absolutely. It's a testimony to our rich food traditions, because like you said, the food is the centerpiece, and now the divgon and the mehndi raat, it has to somehow wrap around it in that sense. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. Even in London where I live, it was a slow start, but it does catch up. It is so unique and it's so flavorful. And once you get past the red fairy color of Rogan Josh and Mats, once you get into the taste bit, that's where the crux is. So thank you, Bhavna. That is so nice to hear from you. And now we have our Master Chef Australia here. Now, before I go to Sandeep, there's one thing I wanted to say about Bhavna. I love the name Nenibata. For those who don't know, it means mutton and rice, meat and rice. And why it's important is because, when I was a child and your parents used to ask you, what do you want for dinner? Everyone used to say, Nenibata. So, it's a thing, your parents say, what do you want for lunch or dinner? So all my cousins, including, me, all my cousins, we want Nenibata. So that is kind of a term for everything. And that's, I guess, where your name comes from. Yes. So Nene is meat is such an important part of her life, isn't it? And Nalini ji, and you talked about Herath and everything. So we are unique in the sense that we offer our deities meat and fish. There were 16 or 17 varieties of fish in Kashmir, and I was told there was somebody called Haeckel in 1836 when he went to Kashmir. He was astonished. He found 16 unique varieties in fish, and of course the rainbow trout is very indigenous to Kashmir, and it's the flavor of trout. It can beat any other kind of fish. And salmon, of course. So we had the tradition of meat and fish to be offered to the gods. And there are various theories behind it. That is probably a separate discussion in itself. But it's a very important, even being Brahmins, it is a very important part of our culture, meat. And isn't it, Nalini ji, in Herath?
People do question it. Yes, people do question it. This is your Pandit, how come you eat meat? Then I tell them, no, we are Shaivite, we are allowed to eat. And then they it's in our tradition. And not to forget, God.
Yes.
How much It is, you won't believe, every day I'm cooking hogada now.
Oh dear.
And people tell me, Batas get go to Gasu. We want that hogada. And you won't believe this small thing, this makes us travel 1,000 years back. Hogada, boom. You must not have heard also of these things, but now everybody wants to taste it. Still now, after so many years, people are asking me, how do you go inside the malu? I tell them, we put all the masala to syringe. That's how we go it.
Yes.
Just to add that
Yes.
Amazing
Yes.
thing.
Well, yeah. Well,
Amazing
the malu
thing
is
about
a new discussion in itself, because there's so many stages to it. I think we'll have another episode on just in the malu and Rogan Josh of the various steps involved. So it's so interesting.
Yeah.
So coming
I
on
think
to
I've
yes.
written a blog on that. So I was saying,
Yes.
I had written a blog on the malu, and I think it's technically one of the most difficult dishes to master.
Absolutely.
People, whoever claims can do whatever, but I think if you know how to malu, you are a very kudos to our ancestors who got that recipe right.
True. Our thali, when you see green, yellow, red,
Yes.
all the colors in thali, people are amazed when they look at our thalis. How come? Who decides? Who projected this different kind of meal? This is simply amazing. No, we also don't have answer. ये किसने सवराई? See kalia. Look at the kalia. Basic thing, huh? But to get kalia right is again a master chef thing. Not
Absolutely.
everybody gets kalia right.
Absolutely. So yeah, we have our own master chef here, Sandeep Pandit. So Sandeep, we all watch Master Chef. There's Master Chef UK. I'm sure there's Master Chef US and Australia, and all of Kashmiris, including myself. We look at that and say, oh, I could do better. I should have gone there, because, like Bhavna said, we all think we are great cooks, all of us. But you took the leap of faith, I guess, and you did apply for MasterChef and you won. So do you want to tell us what started that MasterChef thing? And of course, the unique presentation. I watched your show and there was everything there. There was Ark and there was Kalia and there was everything else. So Sandeep.
Yeah, and it was a leap of faith. I had come to Australia on an IT job. My company and everyone was really shocked that I made the cut. I didn't win it. I ended up coming 11th, but that was more because I had hurt my back to a point that I couldn't even lift an equipment. But even then, I think I received. I'm the first person in the history of MasterChef Australia to get a perfect 30 score and win the immunity pin. Was also fortunate because the judges spoke very highly of me when eventually I left. But yeah, it used to be like that, as they say in Kashmiri. I used to think like that okay, I think I can do a better job than some of those guys. But yeah, once you go onto that platform, you realize I the auditions were tough. It's not very easy, because what you find before you go onto the television, there are about 3 to 4 steps that you have to take, including two proper end-to-end cooking challenges in front of some really seasoned professionals. But once I reached over there and I saw the 23 home cooks, and suddenly I was a bit stunned, because the capability that is there in MasterChef Australia is perhaps one of the best in the world. And then you have I was very proudly wearing the whole Indian cuisine's flag, given the fact that I think in a way I'm blessed. I had the roots that I had in Kashmiri cuisine, and at the same time I was blessed with all the education that I got from South India and the food from there. Plus, I'm a foodie, so I knew my Eastern Indian food, the Western, the Central Plains food. So I had gone with a single thought process that, and I told that to the producers when one of them very excitingly said that, all right, mate, I'm going to make butter chicken and naan. I said, I swear to God, I'll do anything but make butter chicken and naan, because the Western will become dishes, which are, which are us good, which have really brought Indian food to the Western palate. But our food is so much more than just naan or a butter chicken.
Absolutely.
And yeah, then when they ate, I made yakni as well, which was which surprised them because nobody really thought that it was possible to just use yogurt and spices to make a lamb dish. And yeah, I think my the audition dish that I had made, when I made it for the producers, I remember the executive producer walk up to me and say that apron wing dish, and at that point of, and that was like Rogan Josh, Muchedin, Haak, and Tahar. And when Bhavna ji said that she cuts her own meat, that was the problem that I had, because no damn was able to cut the meat the way I wanted it. So I asked my butcher just to cut the joints, and in 1 hour's time, I actually butchered my own meat, made Servil masala, which is our garam masala, from the scratch. So I had about 12, 13 different spices go in, made Haak, made Tahar, made Rogan Josh, made Muchedin,
Wow.
everything in 60 minutes,
I think
and presented it to the judges. So it was,
that's to make under that much stress. You have to manage your time so well. So well done, Sandeep. We're very proud of you. Very proud of you. We have a special.
thank you.
Yes.
I was
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, what I was saying, I was every time, to the point that wanting to be there. I think one thing was always clear in my mind. I had this ambition of being in MasterChef from a very long time, but initially I thought it would be MasterChef India and not MasterChef Australia. And even for that, I had always believed that if I make traditional Kashmiri food, that's going to blow the socks off everyone, because there are not many cuisines in the world that mix radish and yogurt together. And when people had Muchedin, they were blown away. They're like, "What is this? Who mixes radishes and yogurt?" And I said, "We do." And you
So these are unique combinations, right? Unique combinations. Only Kashmiris have thought about it.
Yes, yes. Including, we use fish and gooseberry. It used to be something together.
Yes.
And of course, in mutts we used apricot. The apricot thing inside. The seed of the apricot. You have to stuff it. So very, very unique and different traditions that we use. And of course, sometimes pomegranate is used as well, and fruits is used in food as well. So yeah, so well done, Sandeep. I was saying we have a special, we have left it to the end, a special pastry resista from Nalini Motiji. She's going to show us how to make kahwa, and that is just going to be the highlight of today's episode. But it was really interesting to talk to you all, and we will have more episodes on our favorite topic, Kashmiri food. So yeah. So Nalini, yes.
Before that, I want to congratulate Bhavna also for taking it forward. What I started, and you doing a commendable job. And Sandeep, it's not an easy thing to go on a master chef. It needs so much of courage.
I agree.
You guys have taken it much further now, and I'm so glad and so proud that I started and it's going. We are on top of world. Believe me. When I look at my
I've always told you, right? I remember, and I think the rest of the panel should know. So Nalini ji and I went to her restaurant. I did not announce that I'm gonna come. I just went over there. I really wanted to know whether the hype is the place worth the hype. She wasn't there. I did not tell Hans. I didn't tell Sadhu sir that I was coming. And while I was eating food, I actually had tears in my eyes because I was moved. Good food does that to you. It reminded me of my Matamal. And then I went to and I said, I'm Sandeep. And, everyone was just surprised that I was over there. So, Nalini ji, I think you have started something that is going to be really, I can't can't really wait to come to India and work with you on the project that we've been thinking for a very long time.
Yes, I think
Thank
the way forward really is for us all to kind of join up, joint up thinking and use our expertise and join it together to spread our cuisine far and wide. So there's so much tradition, so much history, 5,000 plus year old history of food, and
Yeah.
what not to be proud of. We're all very proud of it. So, like I said, we have left the best to the last, and Nalini ji is going to show us how to make kahwa. Now, kahwa is green tea. I mean, the Western world has only just woken up to green tea, but our ancestors used to have green tea since thousands of years of age, and it was the first thing in the morning for us. Still, is kahwa. The actual green tea, the healthy concoction of tea leaves and cardamom and saffron at the end, and so it's, and cinnamon, of course, and a steaming cup of hot tea just is a good thing to start your day with. And now I have now here in London, most of my friends who come to house, that is the first thing I give them is kahwa, and that just sets the tone of the evening. And here we have got the samovar. So thank you, Nalini ji. You take us through the steps of making
So the
kahwa.
water is boiling. There are for people who don't know
Excellent.
samovar, this is a must-have in every Kashmiri Pandit's home. Kashmiri family anywhere, like in Kashmir. There are two sections. Outer section, we put water in this. Inside, we put coal, a live coal, which this is made of brass alloy, and this warms up the whole thing and brews the kahwa. And since there is no timing set for tea, any time is a tea time. So this used to be brewing whole day, and people would drink tons of kahwa or maybe sheer chai during the day. Now I've already kept water here, and the coal is also there. So what we do is, this is a big samovar, maybe enough for 5 to 6 people. So this is cinnamon stick. I'm just adding 2 cinnamon sticks. I'm adding few green cardamom. These are slightly pounded. So I'm adding this. Oh, saffron is not there. Okay. Bit of saffron, that is must. And then we add saffron in the cup also. Right now. And we say the kahwa has to be sweet. Now people don't take so much of sugar. We always add, now we can add, brown sugar, but it has to be, it used to be like chashni.
Yes.
So much sweet. Yeah, people have reduced it to now, say 4 to 5 spoons of sugar. And
I still prefer my kahwa pretty sweet. So I'm liking the way you are going with the sugar.
Yes.
It has to be sweet. It has to be sweet.
It has to be very sweet.
Yeah. And these are our green kahwa tea leaves.
Absolutely.
Slightly twisted.
Super.
We call it Mughal chai also, because why? Somewhere I read this was Mughals who got it to India, and we still in Kashmiri homes we still call it Mughal chai, not Mughal chai. It's now Mughal chai. So we slightly crush it between our hands and add it to it.
I still call
This
it
is
green tea.
This is?
Yes. So you've added everything, and now you have to leave it for how long? The whole concoction.
This maybe 5 to 10 minutes. It was water was already boiling.
Okay.
I added cinnamon. I added ilachi, and the flavors, the smell comes out. And
yes.
I think before we are just going to round it off, we add green leaves. This is by far the best green tea. Green tea. Now everybody's talking about green tea. Now
absolutely,
just go back to your history and see when we started having green tea. And whole day used to be kahwa tea. This Lipton tea and the sheer chai came much later, but we were already there. Now again, I'm pointing out that look at our culture. We have been doing this for ages. Nothing is new. Only the people didn't know about it. This
Yes.
was, now this is our duty to educate people about our. Yes, that's very important.
So then you just close
I
the
think
lid
one of
and then
the,
you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I had missed adding. There wasn't enough this saffron, I think. So we added here
Extra dose of saffron.
extra dose of. So this is my course
Wow.
here.
Beautiful.
Sparkling. It's sparkling.
Yes.
Another thali.
And this is, I always prefer adding 2 strands at least of saffron here.
Wow.
Now this is little bit difficult,
Nalini,
but
by
I
the looks
do
of
it.
it,
I
it seems like
the
the
way.
kahwa will go for 1,000
So this
rupees
is
or
how we
so
pour it.
in your restaurant. A lot of saffron has gone in.
It's quite a bit of saffron, and saffron is so has got such medicinal properties.
is all
it's
Ilachi
antioxidant,
and
it's
badam.
Absolutely. Oh, it
antiseptic,
looks
Correct.
beautiful.
right?
It looks beautiful.
I'm
I
ready
mean,
with
Wow.
my cup of kahwa.
the course
Sorry, I
was
can't
golden.
offer
And
you, but
you can still see the color.
and this used to be very important thing.
We were just waiting for the kahwa to come via the internet, and that dropped. I think the stress.
I think it was traveling during the time.
it was traveling. It was traveling,
So
and it's finally reached us.
There's one more memory connected with it. You remember your grandmothers, having seen your grandmothers holding it with their parents' nose, holding it with that,
Yes.
and drinking. It used to be very hot, but comfortably they would drink with it. So cheers to that.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers, Naniji.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that wonderful demonstration. I must say, your samawar and khos are sparkling. That is just so amazing. We all,
Now everybody, yeah.
I'm
Please go
sure we
ahead.
all have samawars at home, but mine is not as sparkling. So I'll have to take some tips to how to make it sparkle. So you were saying something, Nalini Naniji, were you saying something?
Yes, about the samawar also. Now I think practically not only Kashmiris, every household has these samawars because we've been selling them, and people look at in our Mata Mal, they look at this and everybody wants to know how to make kahwa.
Yes.
Slowly we're getting there.
Excellent, and that's such a good starter. I'm sure, Bhavna, you use it quite a lot as a starter, to start off the dinner or the lunch.
The starter
So
is kahwa and nadar manj.
wow, yes, I mean, yeah, that would be another session just to see how we can make another one. That's another science and art mixed together. Another one. So that brings us to the end of
I
today's
think now I can
episode.
travel to both India as well as US and not miss Kashmiri food. So
Yes.
Bhavna ji, I'm coming.
And Sandeep, when you come to London, you will have special Netherlands here also. So it has gone international. So thank you all. Yes, thank you all for joining today. The onus is really on us now to carry the food forward, and you guys, of course, are doing it brilliantly. But everybody needs to join in. It's our tradition, it's our culture, thousands and centuries year old. And we have to take it forward. So namaskar, and thank you all for joining today. It has been a pleasure hosting this episode, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar. Thank you.